Good morning, YouTube. Well, today I'm at the Lewis and Clark Interpretive Center and also Fort Mandan, which is just down the road. We're going to head there. And the Lewis and Clark set out in 1804, and 5 months into their journey, they made it to this point and broke for the winter and constructed the fort. And they named it after the local Indians, the Mandans. And so we're going to take a look around and see what we can find here before I head down to the fort. Now, something I didn't know is that Meriwether Lewis took along an air rifle, and it was 46 caliber, and it was basically used to impress the Indians along their route. That was primarily a military mission, because a lot of the private commercial ones had failed, but this would be something typical look of the uniforms that they were expected to wear. So Lewis and Clark spent 215 days here in North Dakota. 156 of those were right here near Fort Mandan. Couple of significant things happened here is Lewis wrote his only sustained report on about the expedition, and they really positive relations with the natives, and this is where Sacagawea joined the expedition with her husband, whose name I can't pronounce. So why stop here? Well, this is there's a big bend in the Missouri River right here. The Mandan people were farmers, and they grew a number of crops, corn, squash, something else. Oh, and sunflower, and tobacco. But because of that, they were a major trading center in the fall for a lot of tribes around, and even the Teton Sioux, who were enemies, would come to trade, along with the Cree, Cheyenne, Crow, and a few other tribes. So major trade center, so they got to interact with a lot of other tribes. And the neighboring Hidatsa Indians, they had a couple other villages nearby, 3 of them. Mandan had 2, and but the youth there would go out on raiding parties as ritual, and so they were able to learn a lot about the area and where they would be traveling come spring. So the men had constructed canoes, dug out canoes, and in April, when the ice on the Missouri had gone and they took off again, that's when they ran into their first grizzly. The natives had warned them about the bear, but they sort of poo-pooed it, figured it was a danger to natives with bows and arrows, but hey, we got rifles, how dangerous can they be? When they came upon 2, and one of them took off, and the other one they shot at and wounded, and it ran at them 70 or 80 yards, he said. But fortunately, he was so badly wounded, he didn't get close enough to do any harm before they could get their guns recharged. Remember, they had muzzle loaders, so how fast can you load it? And fired on him again and killed him. And they were very impressed that a grizzly, that even though wounded, would pursue the hunter, where the black bears that they were used to would basically were a lot easier to kill. So as I said, the winter of 1804 to 1805, the expedition stayed here with the 5 villages, the 2 Mandan and the 3 Hisadu.
Okay.
But they this
Sounds good.
is a reconstruction of the fort we're going to visit, because the site of the original, I think, is about a dozen miles from here, but it's probably underwater now because the Missouri River changing course. So let's go check it out. Now, if you've seen my my other video of where they wintered in the Pacific Northwest, this is going to look a little familiar. It's pretty much the same layout, although this place is a little bit bigger. Sure, with this fireplace, it would have been nice and warm in here. So how do you while away those long winter hours when you're not on duty? It's playing cards, backgammon, made on a leather thing with little rounds, and if you lose a piece, it's easy to replace. Or be entertained with the fiddle. And at the back, they've got a storeroom where they kept a couple of storerooms where they kept all their supplies through that long winter. So this is the smokehouse. Hooks up there, and they smoked a lot of meat, but because the Mandan grew like 6 different kinds of corn, they get corn and the squash that they grew, so that really supplemented their diet. So as we go around the courtyard here, the first 4 doors are the soldiers' quarters. They had sleeping lofts up above where they line it with clay and hay and or straw and make it a nice place to sleep. At the far end, on the left is the smokehouse, and on the right is the storeroom that I think I just showed you. And then there's the officers' quarters, and then more soldiers' quarters, or I'm sorry, storerooms, the captain's quarters, then the interpreter's quarters, where True Saint Charbonnet and his wife Sacagawea, an otter woman, lived. They hired them to translate the Hadassah, and Rene Jujami and his family to translate the Mandan. Then the sergeant of the guard quarters, and the last was the blacksmith shop. The blacksmith shop was pretty popular with the natives because they could come in and trade corn and whatnot and get their guns repaired or custom weapons made or custom things made. So good commerce going on. All right, well, this is going to end my visit to Fort Mandan, and we'll get back on the road and see what I can find. There's a lot of other things around here.